Hello, and welcome to another conversation for Research Rockstars. This is Catherine again, and today we're going to be doing the third in a three-part series on a topic that I know is near and dear to everybody's heart, something that we all deal with as professional market researchers, and that's the problem of delivering research results and then our clients don't use them, right? So we've all been plagued by this. Usually people do use research results, but when they don't, sometimes it is extremely painful for us, right? So we want to do everything we can. So the last couple weeks we talked about the first two steps. One is making sure we're speaking the client's language, because this is a great way to make sure that they will actually understand and retain our information. So speaking their language is definitely one of the key strategies for preventing our research results from being ignored. Second key strategy we talked about was using multiple data points. And so we talked a lot about that last week. And today I want to talk about the third part of, what we can really do to make sure that we are proactive and we do everything we can to help our clients use our research. And that's making it simple to apply. This one is actually kind of challenging, I find, for a lot of people, and myself included. We get so close to our data that it seems obvious to us that it's important and that it's actionable, that it can be used. But unfortunately, not all of our clients are as comfortable with data as we are. And so it really is up to us to even, do whatever we can to simplify the information for them. I promise you, if we do a good job on simplifying data for our clients, they're never going to complain and say, oh, you're patronizing me by making it too simple. No, they love it. They appreciate it. So anything we can do to make it simple is going to be extremely helpful for the client. So considering this topic and how it blends in with our overall strategy here, what I want to do is just talk about some really specific tactics, just like we did in parts 1 and parts 2. I want to just share a couple of examples of really specific tactical things that you can do to make sure that you are simplifying your research results. So when we think about simplifying research results, if we think about it at a higher level a little bit, just kind of broaden our thinking a bit, this is really about simplifying complex information. So this isn't a problem that's unique to market research data or customer insights data. Anybody who's trying to convey complex information is going to have to try to simplify it as much as possible for their audience. And the information we are delivering to people often is very complex. And so when we think about it at the highest level, just putting market research topics aside for a second, how would you want to simplify complex information for people? Well, there are actually two common strategies that we use in general in business, and absolutely they are modified here in these examples for market research. But it's the same concepts, right? So at the highest level, what we need to do is we have to categorize the information for them and summarize it. So at the highest level, that's what we do to simplify information. If we want to simplify complex information, these are the two steps. So that's the high level view. So let's look at a specific tactical way we can apply that in our own market research reports. When we talk about categorizing information, all that is really saying is you've got a lot of variables, right? You probably have a lot of data points that you're working with. If you're working with qualitative data, you might not be describing it in terms of variables per se, but whether you're working with quantitative or structured data or unstructured or qualitative data, there's always opportunities to categorize your data. Simply through the act of categorizing the data, you are simplifying it for your readers or for the people in your audience. A great option for doing this is the classic SWOT analysis. And actually, this is something we also teach in our writing quantitative research reports class because it is such a useful tool. So if you've never seen one before, a SWOT analysis is literally strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And if we take a look at this example, I'm using a hypothetical research study, and I've basically mapped some of my key data points into these 4 categories. So in this case, we're talking about research about this company and its brand, and we see that they have some strengths. They have high customer satisfaction and superior product reliability. That's fantastic. They also have some weaknesses. It turns out that their research shows that they're not using the customer's language. We also see some future things that are emerging as opportunities going forward, like we see evidence that there's some new needs emerging. Awesome. So that's a potential opportunity. And a threat, again, threats are always future. Low-cost substitutes are increasing in perceived viability. So it's a threat. It's something that's emerging. So simply by categorizing some of the key points into strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, we are actually simplifying it for our readers. And the beautiful thing about a SWOT analysis is this is a format that most business people will know. Anybody who's gone to business school or taken any kind of marketing class, business strategy class, has absolutely seen a SWOT analysis. It's very nice to use models people already know. The fact that they're already familiar with the SWOT analysis is going to make it much more likely that they're going to, really connect with this way of categorizing the data. It's something that's familiar to them, and we know that people do like familiarity. So a SWOT analysis is just one option for categorizing data from a research report, but the thing is, any way we can do it is great, right? This is just one option, but anytime we can categorize our data, even into simple categories, is going to help. Obviously, there are many different ways we can categorize information based on whatever our topic is. So we can categorize the information to simplify, and we can also summarize it. I'm really shocked at how many market research reports, how many presentations I see about findings from a big customer insights effort don't ever actually have a single slide that says, these were the objectives for this particular project, for this particular analysis, and these are the key findings. And what I find is that clients actually love that. We don't want to make it hard for them to map the key findings to the objectives. Having a visual at some point in a presentation or in a report or even in a top line of some kind that literally has the documented objectives matched to those corresponding key findings is a great way to summarize things for your client. And again, I know that some people feel like they have to make it more complicated, but I promise you, we're not getting paid by the slide. We're not getting paid by the word. When we can summarize things and make it easy for people, they're more likely then to go to the other parts of your report or the other parts of your documentation where you have the backup detail. But this is how we want to make that connection with them. By categorizing the information, by summarizing the information, we do make it simpler for them. And if we can get that kind of engagement going, they're more likely to look at the rest of the research. But if we just come at them with a lot of data that's very complex, it's overwhelming to people. So we do need to simplify our research if we want people to really use it. So I hope this concept of categorizing and summarizing resonates with you, because I think it's very, very simple. It's clearly the way we, again, this is how anybody is going to do a good job of communicating complex information of any kind. And for us, especially because we're often working with data, those of us who do a lot of work with data, do a lot of work with statistics, we, especially have to be very careful about not overwhelming our readers with complexity. We're comfortable with data, but not everybody is. This is from an article that was in Forbes in March of 2017, and I just thought this was such a great point for us, which is that numbers have an important story to tell. They rely on you to give them a clear and convincing voice. And I think this really, is part of this whole passion about trying to make sure we do things in a way that we are keeping things simple for the client. We want to make sure that our numbers are telling that story, and we need to make that story as simple and well synthesized as possible. So I hope you enjoyed that quote. So we talked about, we've got this problem. Our research results sometimes get ignored, and we want to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. Our 3 key tactics that we can use to address this challenge: speaking the client's language, which we covered in part 1, using multiple data points, which we covered in part 2, and making it simple to apply the results, which we just covered just now. I hope the conversation was useful for you. If this kind of topic is interesting and you want an opportunity to discuss it more or practice it or expand on it more, this is actually covered in our course, Writing Quantitative Research Reports. That course is offered usually 3 or 4 times a year, and you can read about it at the training store, which is training.researchrockstar.com. Thanks for your time today. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know or add comments here. And also, this is released as an audio-only podcast on Mondays, so you can catch that at iTunes. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks.